Lieutenant Hana Kim stood in the staging area of Nexus Prime, checking her armor one last time. The metal plates were thick and heavy, painted in standard military gray. Her helmet sat under her arm, its simple visor reflecting the bright lights of the demonstration hall. Around her, soldiers from dozens of different species prepared their own equipment. Their gear looked nothing like hers. The Zenthari warrior next to her wore armor that seemed to float around his body. Energy fields hummed softly where the pieces should have touched his skin. His weapon was a thin rod that glowed with contained plasma. When he moved, the armor moved with him like liquid metal. On her other side, a Corvan soldier adjusted settings on armor that looked more like a second skin. The material shifted colors as she touched different controls. Her weapon existed, only as a small device on her wrist until she pressed a button. Then, hard light formed the shape of a rifle in her hands. Hana looked down at her own gear. Her rifle was solid metal and polymer. It used chemical propellant to fire metal bullets. Her armor was powered by a simple fusion cell and moved with hydraulic systems that had been invented decades ago. Everything about her equipment was heavy, loud, and basic. "Attention all demonstration participants," a voice announced through the station's speakers. "Please report to the main hall for the technology showcase." The demonstration hall was massive. Representatives from over 40 species sat in viewing areas that rose up like an amphitheater. In the center was a large, open space with various targets and obstacles set up for testing. Holographic displays showed information about each piece of equipment that would be demonstrated. Ambassador Yuna Lee sat with the human delegation in one of the middle sections. She wore the formal robes of her office, but Hana could see the tension in her shoulders. This demonstration was important for humanity's standing in the Galactic Alliance. Too many species still saw humans as newcomers who had gotten lucky in their first few battles. "First up," announced the demonstration coordinator, "we have War Marshal Vextar of the Dominion Forces." The Dominion was not part of the Alliance, but they had been invited as observers. Tensions between the Alliance and the Dominion had been growing for months. Many expected a war to start soon. Having them here was supposed to show that the Alliance was confident in its military strength. Vextar stepped into the demonstration area. He was tall and thin, with gray skin and 4 arms. His armor was beautiful to look at. It seemed to be made of liquid silver that flowed around his body. Energy coursed through lines across its surface like glowing veins. "This is our newest battlesuit," Vextar said, his voice carrying clearly through the hall's sound system. "It incorporates quantum processing, adaptive energy shielding, and plasma-forged weaponry." He moved across the demonstration area like he was dancing. His armor made no sound at all. When projectiles were fired at him from different angles, energy shields appeared instantly to block them. The shields were perfectly positioned every time, appearing just where they were needed and disappearing immediately after. His weapon formed in his hands from what looked like nothing. First, it was a rifle. Then it shifted into a cannon. Then it became 2 smaller weapons, one in each of his upper hands. Each shot he fired hit targets that were hundreds of meters away. The plasma bolts curved around obstacles to hit targets that should have been impossible to reach. The alien observers made impressed sounds. Several species applauded. Hana heard one of the Zenthari delegates say something about the new standard of warfare. When Vextar finished, he looked directly at the human section. "We look forward to seeing what our friends from Earth have brought to show us," he said. His tone suggested he expected to be amused. Several other species demonstrated their equipment. Each one was more impressive than the last. The Corvan soldier showed armor that could become invisible. A Thrakari warrior demonstrated weapons that could fire through solid matter. An Altarian brought armor that could survive direct hits from starship weapons. Finally, it was humanity's turn. "Lieutenant Hana Kim will demonstrate human military technology," the coordinator announced. Hana walked into the demonstration area. Her boots made heavy sounds on the metal floor. Her armor whirred and clicked as the hydraulic systems adjusted to her movements. Compared to everything that had come before, she looked like she was wearing museum pieces. She heard quiet laughter from some sections of the viewing area. One alien voice said, "Is this a joke?" Another asked, "Are they showing us historical equipment?" Hana put on her helmet and activated her armor's systems. Status lights came on across her chest plate. Her heads-up display showed basic information: power levels, ammunition count, system status. Everything was simple text and numbers. No fancy holographics or AI assistance. She started with basic movement tests. Where the other soldiers had glided or flowed across the demonstration area, Hana walked with heavy mechanical steps. Her armor was loud. Servos whined as she moved. Hydraulics hissed when she changed direction quickly. For the weapons test, she raised her rifle and fired at the targets. Each shot was accompanied by a loud bang and a flash of light from the muzzle. The bullets traveled in straight lines and punched holes through the target materials. There were no curving shots or plasma bolts, just simple, direct impacts. The viewing area had gone quiet. It was not the impressed quiet that followed the other demonstrations. It was the uncomfortable quiet that happens when something embarrassing is taking place. Captain Jinho Park watched from the human delegation area. His face showed no emotion, but his hands were clenched in his lap. He knew something the others did not know about the Mark 7 armor, but even he was not sure what Dr. Mira Cho had been working on in her secret laboratory. Dr. Cho herself sat in the technical observer section. She watched the demonstration with calm eyes, taking notes on a simple paper tablet. While everyone else was focused on how primitive human technology looked, she was studying the other species' equipment. She paid particular attention to the power sources and control systems that made the advanced gear work. Hana finished her demonstration with a basic combat scenario. She moved through a series of obstacles, engaging targets that appeared at different positions. Her movements were efficient but not graceful. Her shots were accurate but not spectacular. Everything she did worked exactly as intended, but it looked basic compared to what had come before. When she finished, the applause was polite but brief. She walked back to the staging area while the coordinator began his closing remarks. War Marshal Vextar stood up in the Dominion Observer section. "If I may," he said, "I would like to thank our human friends for that educational display. It is always interesting to see how different species approach the challenges of warfare. Some choose to embrace the future, while others—" He paused and looked directly at Ambassador Yuna Lee. "Others remain attached to the past." The insult was clear to everyone in the hall. Several Alliance species shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Ambassador Lee kept her expression neutral, but Hana could see her jaw tighten. "We appreciate the Dominion's perspective," Lee replied carefully. "Humanity has always believed that reliable equipment is better than impressive equipment." Vextar smiled, showing teeth that were too sharp. "How quaint," he said. "I suppose we shall see how reliable your equipment proves to be when it truly matters." As the demonstration ended and delegates began to leave, Hana overheard conversations from various species. The words primitive, obsolete, and disappointing came up repeatedly. One Alliance commander was heard saying that perhaps humanity was not ready for the coming conflict with the Dominion. Commander Taekwon approached Captain Park as they prepared to leave. "I hope your people have more advanced equipment than what we saw today," he said quietly. "Because if war comes, what we saw here will not be enough." Park nodded but said nothing. He looked across the hall to where Dr. Cho was still taking notes, completely unbothered by the reaction to the demonstration. Hana removed her helmet and ran a hand through her hair. The demonstration had gone exactly as expected, but it still stung to hear her equipment dismissed so easily. She had trained with this armor for years. She knew every system, every backup, every redundancy built into its design. The other soldiers, might have impressive gear, but she trusted her equipment with her life. She did not know that in just 3 weeks, that trust would be the only thing standing between the Alliance and total defeat. 3 weeks had passed since the demonstration. The laughter and whispers about human technology had died down, but the memories still stung. Hana Kim walked through the corridors of Nexus Prime, her armor making the same mechanical sounds it always did. She had grown used to the looks from other species. Some showed pity, others showed mild amusement. The station felt different today. There were more Dominion representatives than usual. They had arrived 2 days ago for what was supposed to be important peace talks with the Alliance. War Marshal Vextar had brought a large diplomatic team and several ships. Everyone hoped these talks might prevent the war that seemed to be coming. Hana made her way to the main conference hall where the final session was taking place. Ambassador Yuna Lee had been working for days to find common ground with the Dominion. The talks had not gone well, but no one expected what was about to happen. She stopped at the armory to check her equipment. It was a habit she had developed during her years of service. Her Mark 7 armor hung on its charging rack, all systems showing green. Her rifle was clean and loaded. Everything was exactly as it should be. "Still playing with those old toys?" a voice said behind her. Hana turned to see Krell Oth, the Dominion tech specialist. He was examining some of the Alliance equipment stored in the armory. His own gear was sleek and quiet, full of systems that seemed to work by magic. "They work," Hana said simply. Kreloth picked up one of her spare ammunition magazines. "Chemical, propellant," he said, shaking his head. "We stopped using this kind of primitive technology centuries ago. Do you not feel embarrassed carrying such outdated equipment?" "I feel confident," Hana replied. "My equipment does what I need it to do." "But it does so little," Kreloth said. "Look at this." He activated a device on his arm. A holographic display appeared in the air showing complex diagrams and flowing text. "This is real military technology. Quantum-linked targeting systems. AI-assisted battlefield analysis. Plasma generation with 97% efficiency." Hana looked at the display without much interest. "What happens when it breaks?" Kreloth laughed. "It does not break. Our systems are far too advanced for such problems." "Everything breaks eventually," Hana said. "Not our technology," Krell Oth replied confidently. "We have moved beyond such primitive concerns." In the conference hall, the peace talks were reaching their end. Ambassador Lee sat across from War Marshal Vextar at a large round table. Representatives from dozens of Alliance species filled the seats around them. The discussion had been going in circles for hours. The Alliance must accept that the Dominion has legitimate claims to the outer systems, Vextar was saying. "We have been patient, but our patience has limits." "Those systems have been Alliance territory for over 50 years, Commander Taek Wan replied. "We cannot simply hand them over because you demand it." "Then perhaps," Vextar said slowly, "we have nothing more to discuss." He stood up from his chair. "The Dominion has tried to resolve this peacefully. The Alliance has chosen a different path." Ambassador Lee felt something cold in her stomach. "War Marshal, surely we can find another solution?" "I think not," Vextar replied. He touched a device on his wrist and spoke a single word in the Dominion language. That word was a signal. Throughout Nexus Prime, Dominion devices that had been secretly installed over the past 3 weeks suddenly activated. They had been hidden in air vents, behind wall panels, and inside equipment that the Dominion technical team had been allowed to examine. No one had suspected anything because the devices were completely inactive until that moment. The EMP pulse that erupted from these devices was unlike anything the Alliance had ever seen. It was specifically designed and tuned to target the frequency ranges used by Alliance technology. Months of intelligence gathering had gone into creating the perfect weapon to disable their equipment while leaving Dominion systems untouched. Every advanced piece of technology on the station stopped working instantly. The lights went out, emergency lighting failed to activate, the air circulation system shut down, communication systems died. Most importantly, every piece of military equipment from the Alliance species simply stopped functioning. In the conference hall, Alliance representatives found themselves sitting in complete darkness. The Zenthari delegate tried to activate his armor's emergency systems, but nothing happened. The Corvan soldier pressed buttons on her wrist device, but the hard light weapons would not form. The Thrakari warrior's armor had become dead weight that he could barely move in. Only the Dominion representatives seemed unaffected. Their equipment continued to work perfectly. Emergency lights built into their gear activated, casting an eerie glow across the conference room. "I am sorry it has come to this," Vextar said, his voice clearly audible through his armor's speakers. "But the Alliance has forced our hand." Hana was in the armory when the EMP hit. She felt it as a strange tingling sensation across her skin, followed by the sudden silence as all the station's systems shut down. The charging stations for Alliance equipment went dark. The environmental controls stopped humming. Even the simple light fixtures went out. She expected her armor to fail too. The Mark VII used electronic systems for many of its functions. Surely it would be affected like everything else. Instead, she heard a quiet beep from her armor's chest plate, then another. Status lights began to glow across the armor's surface, but they were different from the normal ones. These were backup indicators she had never seen before. A soft mechanical voice spoke from the armor's speakers. "Primary systems offline. Switching to backup protocols. All mechanical systems operational. Manual override systems active." Hana stared at her armor in surprise. Around her, other Alliance soldiers were struggling with equipment that had become useless metal. Their advanced suits had locked up completely. Some were trapped inside armor they could not move. Others found themselves unable to access any of their weapons or systems. But her obsolete Mark VII armor was still running. She quickly put on the armor and activated all systems. Everything worked, though some functions were different. Her heads-up display showed only basic information now, but it was working. Her weapon systems were operational. Most importantly, she could move freely while Alliance soldiers around her were helpless. Through the station's mechanical communication system, she heard Captain Park's voice. "All units, report status." The responses that came back were not good. Almost every Alliance soldier was reporting complete system failure. Advanced armor had become prison suits. Weapons would not fire. Communication was only possible through the old hardwired systems that few people remembered how to use. But then, Hana's voice came through. "Lieutenant Kim reporting. Mark VII armor fully operational. All weapon systems functional. Ready for orders." There was silence on the communication channel for several seconds. "Repeat that, Lieutenant," Captain Park said. "Mark VII armor is unaffected by whatever hit. Us, sir. All systems are working normally." In the engineering section, Dr. Mira Cho was not surprised by this news. She had been working on the Mark VII's backup systems for years, preparing for exactly this kind of scenario. She had studied Dominion tactics and technology, and she had suspected they might try something like an EMP attack. That was why she had insisted on keeping the Mark VII armor backwards compatible. Every system had mechanical backups. Every electronic component had a hardened alternative. The armor looked primitive because it was designed to work even when everything else failed. Through the mechanical communication system, she contacted Hana directly. "Lieutenant, this is Dr. Cho. Your armor is now our most important asset. The Dominion has disabled everything else, but they did not account for our redundant systems." "What are my orders, Doctor?" Hana asked. "Survive," Dr. Cho replied, "and buy us time to figure out how to fight back." Through the station, Hana could hear the sounds of Dominion soldiers moving through the corridors. They wore specially shielded equipment that had not been affected by their own EMP weapon. They were beginning to take control of the station, expecting no resistance from Alliance forces who should be helpless. They had not counted on one human soldier in obsolete armor who was still fully operational. Hana checked her rifle and started, moving toward the sounds of the enemy soldiers. Her mechanical footsteps echoed through the darkened corridors. For the first time since the demonstration 3 weeks ago, she felt confident about her equipment. The Dominion had made a serious mistake. They had planned for every advanced technology the Alliance possessed, but they had not planned for technology. That was simple enough to keep working when everything else failed. Hana Kim was about to show them the value of being underestimated. Hana moved through the dark corridors of Nexus Prime like a ghost. Her armor's mechanical systems were quiet enough that she could hear the Dominion soldiers before they could hear her. The backup power systems gave her just enough light to see, without using the bright searchlights that would give away her position. She reached the first checkpoint where Dominion soldiers had set up a control point. 3 soldiers in their advanced armor were processing Alliance personnel who had been captured in the initial attack. The Alliance soldiers looked helpless without their equipment. Some were still trapped inside their own armor suits that had locked up when the EMP hit. Hana watched from around a corner. The Dominion soldiers were confident and relaxed. They believed they had won completely. Their leader was talking to someone. Through his communication system, Section 7 secured, he reported. No resistance encountered. Alliance forces are completely disabled as expected. Hana raised her rifle and took careful aim. Her targeting system was basic compared to the advanced gear she had seen in the demonstration, but it worked perfectly. The crosshairs lined up on the first soldier's chest plate. She fired 3 times in quick succession. The chemical propellant drove the metal bullets straight through the Dominion soldier's armor. His advanced shields were designed to stop energy, weapons, and plasma bolts, not simple kinetic projectiles traveling at high speed. The soldier fell before he understood what had happened. His 2 companions spun around trying to find the source of the attack, but Hana had already moved to a different position. "Contact!" one of them shouted into his radio. "We are under attack in Section 7. "From what?" came the reply. "Alliance. Forces are neutralized." "I do not know. Someone is shooting at us." Hana fired again. Her second shot took down the soldier who was talking on the radio. The third soldier activated his plasma weapon and began firing in all directions, but he could not see his target in the darkness. Hana's third shot ended the fight. The corridor fell silent except for the mechanical humming of her armor's systems. She moved quickly to free the captured Alliance soldiers. Most of them were officers who had been in the conference hall when the attack started. Commander Taek. One was among them, looking frustrated and angry. "Lieutenant Kim," he said as she helped him stand. "How is your equipment still working?" "Backup systems, sir," Hana replied. "Dr. Cho designed them to work independently of the main electronics. Can we get our gear working again?" Hana looked at the Alliance equipment scattered around the checkpoint. The advanced armor suits were completely dead. Even their simple status lights were dark. "I do not think so, sir. Whatever they hit us with was designed specifically for your technology." Commander Taek-Wan picked up a plasma rifle and tried to activate it. Nothing happened. The weapon was no more useful than a metal stick. "Then you are our only combat-effective soldier," he said. "What do you need from us?" "Stay hidden and stay together," Hana told him. "I will try to disrupt their operations and find a way to contact the fleet." She left the freed officers in a secure storage room and continued her hunt through the station. The Dominion soldiers were spread out in small groups, taking control of key areas. They all had the same overconfident attitude. None of them expected to face any real resistance. Hana proved them wrong at every encounter. In the power generation section, she found 4 soldiers trying to take control of the station's reactor. They were working to restore power to systems they needed while keeping Alliance equipment offline. Hana eliminated all 4 of them before they could complete their work. In the communication center, she discovered 6 soldiers setting up equipment to contact the Dominion fleet. They were preparing to call in additional forces to secure the station completely. Hana's rifle ended their communication attempts permanently. Each time she struck, she moved immediately to a new location. The Dominion forces began to realize they were facing a serious threat, but they could not understand what was happening. Their advanced sensors should have been able to track any Alliance soldier, but Hana's simple armor did not register on their detection systems. "This is impossible," Kreloth said over the Dominion communication network. Hana could hear him through radio equipment she had taken from dead soldiers. "All Alliance technology is offline. How can someone be attacking us?" "Perhaps some of their soldiers escaped the EMP," another voice suggested. "No," Kreloth replied. "I designed that weapon personally. It affects all Alliance technology without exception." War Marshal Vexitar's voice cut through the discussion. "I do not care how it is possible. Find this threat and eliminate it." Hana smiled inside her helmet. They still did not understand what they were facing. To them, the idea that primitive technology could be more effective than advanced systems was impossible to accept. She made her way to the armory where she had been when the attack started. Most of the Alliance weapons were useless now, but there were other things she could use. The storage room contained old-fashioned explosive charges, mechanical tools, and backup equipment that did not rely on advanced electronics. While she gathered supplies, Dr. Cho contacted her through the hardwired communication system. "Hana, what is your status?" the doctor asked. "I have eliminated 15 enemy soldiers and disrupted their control of several key areas," Hana reported. "But there are too many of them. I need a better plan." "I have been analyzing the EMP weapon," Dr. Cho said. "It was very sophisticated, but it has limitations. The pulse only affected systems that were active when it fired. Anything that was completely powered down should still be functional." "What does that mean for us?" "It means some of the station's defensive systems might still work if we can reach the manual control stations. Your armor can interface with the mechanical backup systems." Hana felt a surge of hope. "Where do I need to go?" "The main weapons. Control center is 3 levels down from your position, but Hana, it will be heavily guarded. The Dominion knows how important that location is." "How heavily guarded?" "My sensors show at least 20 soldiers in that area, maybe more." Hana checked her ammunition count. She had enough bullets for maybe 10 more encounters if she was careful. 20 soldiers would be impossible to face directly. "Doctor, is there another way to access the weapon systems? There are maintenance tunnels that connect to the control center. They are too small for normal armor, but your Mark 7 might fit. The passages were designed for repair work, not combat." "Send me the route." A simple map appeared on Hana's basic display system. The maintenance tunnels twisted through the stations, infrastructure like a maze. It would be a difficult path, but it would let her avoid the main Dominion forces. As she prepared to leave the armory, Hana heard explosions in the distance. The Dominion soldiers were getting frustrated with their inability to find her. They were starting to destroy parts of the station in their search. "Lieutenant," Commander Taekwon's voice came through the communication system. "They are threatening to kill prisoners if you do not surrender." Hana felt anger burn in her chest. The Dominion had broken the rules of warfare by attacking during peace talks. Now they were threatening to murder helpless prisoners. "Tell them I will surrender," she said. "Hana, no," Dr. Cho protested. "You are our only hope." "Tell them I will meet them in the central plaza in 1 hour," Hana continued. "That should give me enough time to reach the weapons control center." She gathered her remaining supplies and started toward the maintenance tunnels. The path would be dangerous and uncomfortable, but it was her only chance to reach the station's defensive systems. As she crawled through the narrow passages, Hana thought about the demonstration 3 weeks ago. The aliens had laughed at her. Primitive equipment. They had called it obsolete and embarrassing. Now that same equipment was the only thing standing between the Alliance and total defeat. The Dominion had made a critical error. They had planned for every advanced system the Alliance possessed, but they had forgotten the most basic rule of warfare. Simple tools in skilled hands can defeat complex weapons in the wrong hands. Hana reached the access panel for the weapons control center and began cutting through the metal barriers with mechanical tools. Soon she would show the Dominion exactly how dangerous obsolete technology could be. Hana crawled through the maintenance tunnel for what felt like hours. The passage was barely wide enough for her armor, and every movement was a struggle. The Mark VII's mechanical joints groaned with each turn and twist through the narrow space. Her breathing was loud inside her helmet, and sweat ran down her face. Finally, she reached the access panel that led into the weapons control center. Through the metal grating, she could see into the room beyond. It was larger than she had expected, filled with control stations and display screens that were all dark now. The EMP had shut down everything electronic. But what worried her most were the Dominion soldiers inside. Dr. Cho had been right about the heavy guard. Hana counted at least 25 soldiers positioned throughout the room. They had set up defensive positions and were clearly expecting trouble. War Marshal Vextar was there too, standing near the main control station. He was studying the dead displays with Krell Oth, who was holding some kind of scanning device. "The weapon systems are completely offline," Krell Oth was saying. "Even if Alliance forces could reach this room, they would not be able to activate anything." "Are you certain?" Vexatar asked. "Absolutely. These systems require quantum processing and AI assistance to function. The EMP destroyed all of that. The weapons might as well not exist." Hana smiled grimly inside her helmet. They were about to learn how wrong they were. She carefully removed the access panel, trying not to make any noise. The mechanical tools Dr. Cho had told her about were built into every control station. They were simple backup systems designed to work when everything else failed. Her armor's basic computer could interface with them directly. The first control station was only 10 meters from her position, but there were 3 Dominion soldiers standing near it. She would have to eliminate them quietly to avoid alerting the rest of the room. Hana drew her combat knife and moved carefully through the shadows. Her armor's sound-dampening systems were working perfectly. The soldiers were focused on watching the main entrances and did not expect an attack from inside the room. She reached the first soldier and struck quickly. Her knife found the weak point in his armor, where the helmet connected to the chest piece. He fell without making a sound. The second soldier turned just as Hana moved toward him. She saw his eyes widen with surprise, but her knife reached him before he could call out. The third soldier was looking the other way and never saw her coming. Now, she had access to the first control station. Hana connected her armor's interface cable to the manual override port. Her basic computer began talking to the station's mechanical systems. Lines of simple text appeared on her helmet display. Weapons System Alpha, manual control available. Railgun Battery 1, ammunition loaded. Targeting system, manual only. Fire control, ready. Hana had to calculate the targeting herself. Her armor's computer could help with basic math, but she needed to figure out where the Dominion ships were positioned outside the station. Dr. Cho had given her the information before she started this mission. She aimed the first railgun battery at the coordinates for the Dominion command ship and fired. The railgun was completely mechanical except for the firing trigger. It used magnetic fields generated by simple electrical systems to launch metal projectiles at incredible speeds. The EMP had not affected these basic electrical components because they were too simple to be damaged. The shot traveled through space and struck the Dominion command ship's hull. The ship's advanced shields were designed to stop energy weapons, but they could not stop a solid metal projectile moving at a significant fraction of light speed. Alarms began sounding throughout the Dominion fleet. Vextar's communication device activated with urgent reports from his ships. Command ship taking fire. Hull breach on deck 7. "How is that possible?" Vextar demanded. "The station's weapons are offline." Hana moved to the second control station. While the Dominion soldiers in the room tried to understand what was happening, she eliminated 2 more guards and connected to another weapon system. Weapon System Beta. Manual control available. Missile Battery 2. Ammunition loaded. Targeting System. Manual only. Fire control. Ready. She programmed the missiles with simple mechanical guidance systems. They would fly straight to their targets without any complex electronics. The Dominion ships would not expect such primitive weapons. 6 missiles launched from the station and streaked toward the Dominion fleet. Their basic guidance systems worked perfectly, and all 6 found their targets. Explosions lit up the space. Around Nexus Prime, as Dominion ships took damage they were not prepared for. "Impossible!" Kreloth shouted. "Those systems cannot function without quantum processing." Hana revealed herself by standing up from behind the control station. "You forgot about mechanical backups," she said, her voice carrying clearly through the room's speakers. Every Dominion soldier in the room turned toward her, raising their weapons. But Hana was already moving to the next control station. "Stop her!" Vextar ordered. The soldiers opened fire with their plasma weapons, but Hana's simple armor was harder to hit than they expected. The Mark 7 was designed for direct combat, not the graceful movements of advanced armor. It was built to take damage and keep working. Plasma bolts struck her armor and scorched the metal plating, but the mechanical systems underneath continued to function. Her armor's basic targeting system helped her return fire with her rifle while she ran from station to station. She reached the 3rd control station and activated another weapon system. Weapon System Gamma, manual control available. Particle beam array, power available. Targeting system, manual only. Fire control, ready. The particle beam was more complex than the railguns, but its basic firing system was still mechanical. Hana aimed it at the largest Dominion ship and fired. The beam lanced through space and sliced through the ship's hull like it was made of paper. More alarms sounded from Vextar's communication device. "Fleet Commander to War Marshal, we are taking heavy casualties. Request immediate evacuation." "Negative," Vextar replied. "Hold your positions. It is just 1 soldier." But Hana was not finished. She moved to the 4th control station while Dominion soldiers tried to surround her. Her rifle fire kept them back while she connected to more weapons systems. Weapon System Delta. Manual control available. Torpedo launcher array. Ammunition. Loaded. Guidance system. Mechanical only. Fire control. Ready. She launched a full spread of torpedoes at the Dominion fleet. These were old-fashioned weapons that used simple mechanical guidance and chemical explosives. They were exactly the kind of primitive technology that the Dominion had not bothered to prepare defenses against. The torpedoes struck home with devastating effect. 3 Dominion ships suffered critical damage, and 1 began to break apart. "All ships retreat!" came the panicked voice from the fleet commander. "We cannot withstand this bombardment." Hana reached the central control station where she could access all of the station's defensive systems at once. Vextar and Kreloth were waiting for her there, their weapons drawn. "This ends now, human," Vextar said. "Yes, it does," Hana agreed. She connected her armor to the main control system and felt all of Nexus Prime's weapons come online under her direct control. Railguns, missile batteries, particle beams, torpedo launchers, and defensive systems that the Dominion had never imagined were all responding to her simple mechanical interface. The station's weapons turned toward the Dominion fleet like the fingers of an enormous hand. Every ship in the enemy formation found itself targeted by multiple weapon systems. "Surrender," Hana said, her voice broadcasting to the entire Dominion fleet through the station's communication array. "Or I will destroy every ship you have." Through the tactical display, she could see the Dominion ships hesitating. They had come here expecting an easy victory against helpless opponents. Instead, they faced the full defensive power of Nexus Prime, controlled by a single soldier in obsolete armor. War Marshal Vextar stared at her with disbelief and growing fear. "How?" he whispered. "You planned for everything except the simplest possibility," Hana replied. "That sometimes old technology works better than new technology." She kept all weapons trained on the Dominion fleet while she waited for their response. Around her, the weapons control center hummed with the sound of mechanical systems that had been dismissed as primitive and useless. The Dominion was about to learn that there was nothing primitive about technology that worked when everything else failed. The silence in space around Nexus Prime stretched for long minutes. Hana kept all of the station's weapons trained on the Dominion fleet while she waited for their answer. Through her armor's simple communication system, she could hear the frantic discussions happening between the enemy ships. "War Marshal, we have lost 4 ships and taken heavy damage on 6 others," reported the fleet commander. "Our shields are ineffective against these primitive weapons." "They are not primitive," Krell Oth shouted over the communication channel. "I do not understand how, but they are using our own tactics against us. Simple kinetic weapons that bypass our energy defenses." War Marshal Vextar stood in the weapons control center, staring at Hana with a mixture of rage and disbelief. Around them, his soldiers kept their weapons pointed at her, but no one dared to fire. They all understood that killing her might trigger an automatic response from the station's weapons systems. "You cannot control all of these systems alone," Vextar said finally. "No single being has that capability." "My armor does," Hana replied calmly. "Every system on this station has mechanical backups that work with simple interfaces. Your EMP weapon disabled the fancy computers, but it could not touch the basic controls." She gestured to the control stations around the room. "These weapons were designed by dozens of different species over many years, but they all have one thing in common. They all have manual override systems for emergencies." Through her helmet display, Hana could see status reports from every weapon system on the station. Railguns loaded and ready, missile batteries armed, particle beam arrays charged, torpedo launchers prepared, all of it controlled by her Mark 7 armor's simple but reliable computer. "Your technology failed you," she continued. "You made everything so advanced that it became fragile. One electromagnetic pulse, and all of your superior equipment became useless metal." Kreloth stepped forward, his scanner device beeping frantically. "This is impossible. Your armor should not be able to interface with our systems." "It is not interfacing with your systems," Hana explained. "It is interfacing with the backup systems that every species built into their equipment. Simple mechanical controls that work when everything else fails." Dr. Cho's voice came through the hardwired communication system. "Hana, I have been monitoring the Dominion fleet communications. They are calling for reinforcements." "How long until they arrive?" Hana asked. 2 hours, maybe less." Hana turned back to Vextar. "You have 2 hours to withdraw your forces and leave Alliance space. If your reinforcements arrive before you are gone, I will destroy every ship in both fleets." "You are bluffing," Vextar said. "One person cannot operate an entire weapons system indefinitely." "Try me," Hana replied. To prove her point, she fired a single railgun shot past the command ship's bridge. The metal projectile missed by only a few meters close, enough that everyone on the ship felt the station shake from the magnetic discharge. "Next shot goes through your bridge," Hana warned. The fleet commander's voice crackled over the communication system. "War Marshal, respectfully request permission to withdraw. We cannot fight these weapons effectively." Vextar's face twisted with anger, but he was a military officer first. He understood when a battle was lost. "All ships begin withdrawal procedures. Evacuate all personnel from the station." "What about the prisoners?" one of his officers asked. "Leave them," Vextar said bitterly. "We have lost this engagement." As Dominion soldiers throughout Nexus Prime began gathering their equipment and heading for their ships, Hana maintained her position at the weapons control center. She kept every system targeted on the enemy fleet, ready to fire if they showed any sign of treachery. Commander Taik Won's voice came through the communication. "System, Lieutenant, Alliance soldiers are reporting that they are being released. The Dominion forces are withdrawing." "Confirmed," Hana replied. "Keep everyone clear of the docking bays until their ships depart." One by one, the Dominion vessels finished loading their personnel and began moving away from the station. Hana tracked each ship with multiple weapons systems until they reached a safe distance. War Marshal Vex Tar was among the last to leave. Before boarding his transport, he activated his personal communication device one final time. "This is not over, human," his voice echoed through the weapons control center. "The Dominion will remember this defeat." "Good," Hana replied. "Remember that it was caused by the equipment you called obsolete." After the last Dominion ship had jumped to hyperspace, Hana finally allowed herself to relax. She disconnected her armor from the weapons control systems and removed her helmet. Her hair was soaked with sweat, and her hands were shaking from exhaustion. Dr. Cho was the first to reach the weapons control center. She looked around at the battle damage and the bodies of Dominion soldiers, then smiled at Hana. "I told you. The Mark 7 had some surprises built into it," she said. "You could have warned me about the manual weapons interface," Hana replied. "Where would be the fun in that?" Dr. Cho laughed. "Besides, you needed to discover it yourself to use it effectively." Commander Taek Wan arrived with several other Alliance officers. They looked around the room with amazement. "Lieutenant Kim," the commander said formally, "on behalf of the Alliance Command, I want to apologize for underestimating human military technology." "It is not about the technology," Hana said. "It is about understanding that simple solutions can be better than complex ones." Ambassador Yuna Lee was the last to arrive. She had been coordinating the evacuation of Alliance personnel and making sure the Dominion forces actually left the system. "The Alliance Council is calling an emergency session," she announced. "They want a full report on how one human soldier defeated an entire Dominion fleet." "It was not just me," Hana said. "It was the engineers who built backup systems into everything. It was Dr. Cho who insisted on maintaining compatibility with older equipment. It was everyone who understood that having a simple tool that works is better than having a complex tool that fails." Over the following weeks, the story of the Battle of Nexus Prime spread throughout Alliance space. Every species began reviewing their military equipment to make sure they had adequate backup systems. The idea of building redundancy into advanced technology became a standard practice. Human military advisors found themselves in high demand. Other species wanted to learn about the primitive engineering principles that had proven so effective. The concept of mechanical backups and manual overrides became part of standard Alliance military doctrine. Dr. Mira Cho was promoted to head of Alliance military engineering. Her first project was developing new armor systems that combined advanced technology with simple, reliable backups. The Mark VIII armor that resulted from this work became the new standard for Alliance forces. Hana Kim received the Alliance Medal of Honor and was promoted to captain. But more importantly, she never again heard anyone call human equipment obsolete. The Dominion eventually returned with a larger fleet, but they found the Alliance prepared for EMP attacks. Every ship and every soldier had backup systems that could operate independently of advanced electronics. The war that followed was long and difficult, but the Alliance had learned the most important lesson of all. Sometimes the best technology is the technology that works when everything else fails. In her new office, Captain Hana Kim kept her mark, 7th armor on display. A small plaque beside it read, "Her armor was called Obsolete." Then it shut down the entire arsenal around her. Visitors often asked about the meaning of those words. Hana would smile and tell them the story of how being underestimated became humanity's greatest strength.